Wrestling fans, promoters, wrestlers, and anyone who enjoys pro wrestling now have something new to be excited about. The Wrestling Fans International Association, the WFIA, is back. WFIA is an association that exists to promote, grow, and support professional wrestling throughout the world. Membership is free. Your membership includes a free digital bi-monthly publication of the Wrestling Fan News newsletter, association updates, voting privileges, and much more. Please go to thewfia.org, that's THEWFIA.org, and become a member today. Thank you for joining another edition of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I'm Brian Ferguson. My guest today is the manager of stars on the independent pro circuit. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Lucky P Larson Esquire. Lucky, thanks for coming on today.
No problem. It is definitely your pleasure, but I'm happy to talk about my career and how great I am. So, whatever you want to do, I'm willing to do it.
All right, sir. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, so taking time out of your schedule, once again, I appreciate it. So
that is true. In fact, I'm heading to Charlotte, North Carolina for the Gathering. It's a Gathering 4 starting tomorrow, and I've been at all 4 of them. I've managed in the main event in 2 out of the 3 so far, and after this weekend, it'll be 3 out of the 4.
Wow. Well, that's pretty awesome. That's great. Yeah. Say hello to Reggie Hart for me. You know who that is, don't you?
I know lots of people.
605 guy. He'll be there. So
yeah, Marty D'Amato runs a good convention. He has, like I said, he's got good matches on Saturday nights, the banquet on Friday night. And the first year I was there, I managed Bam Bam Bundy and Kevin Zion with Missy Hyatt in my corner against Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, and Baby Doll in their corner. The second year, I managed Bam Bam Bundy against Mr. Hughes, and Tommy Young was the referee. And then last year, we ran in and attacked Shane Douglas, Too Cold Scorpio, C.W. Anderson. Then the Sandman grabbed me by my tie while Kimona tamed me. And then after I managed Bundy against Nate the Great for the T-Mar Championship, the Berserker came in and kicked me in the face. So it's been an eventful few years there.
Oh, well, it sounds like you're going to have a very good time. So, great.
I think so. I'm managing Bundy in the Battle Royal, which this year has Gangrel and Mr. Hughes and Kerry Morton and Action Jackson and the Barbarian and several others. So we're prepared.
Wow. Well, all right. So we're going to go back a little bit if we can. Tell us where you're from originally and growing up, what you're...
Do you ever wonder what would happen if
you give a dad a podcast?
Ladies and gentlemen,
let's just settle this debate right here, right now. It's not even just the greatest PlayStation game. It's the greatest game ever.
Not to toot my own horn, but
exactly.
Yeah, I remember he kicked me so hard I thought I owed him money.
I love it. I'm excited for this one.
He goes, "What is your name?" And I was like, "It's Thrash."
I'm getting punched in the face on the daily.
Man, this guy won't shut up.
I wear that as a badge of honor.
Yeah, I got knocked out cold in that match. It was awesome. So awesome.
We make dogs sing.
Do you always do these interviews with your shirt off?
Going live in 3, 2, 1.
So now we've been filming for the last 6 months.
I panicked.
Followed by...
Bro.
If You Give a Dad a Podcast, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Family life was like.
I am from the world's greatest city, and as you can clearly see, with all the championship memorabilia, that would be Boston, Massachusetts.
In fact,
yes. In fact, I was a small little Lucky as a fan in the Boston Garden in 1986 at the match that Randy Savage beat Tito Santana for the Intercontinental Championship.
Wow. right.
Yeah. Little did I know that I would one day become extremely close friends with his brother, who was one of my closest friends in the world till he passed away.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boston. So Kevin Sullivan.
I know Kevin Sullivan quite well. Yes.
The
He and I have
Taskmaster.
had many a discussion over our beloved Boston sports teams.
Yeah. Great guy. I've had
Great
some interaction
mind.
with him. Yeah, great mind for the business.
No question.
In my mind, underappreciated.
Underrated, underappreciated, undervalued.
Yeah.
I think, he had the same issue that maybe Eddie Gilbert did, and that, if they were maybe a few inches taller, they might have gotten further, because at the time they were looking for bigger men. But, for what he had, he was just incredible. He still is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about you getting into the business. So how did you get into this profession, if you will?
Well, you can give either all of the credit or all of the blame, depending on whether or not you are in the great majority of sheep that can't stand me and want to kill me, or you are one of the few members of the Legion of Lucky who recognize my brilliance. You can give the credit or the blame to one man, and that would be Bert Prentice. And, I know that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on Bert Prentice, and I will tell you the same thing I've told everybody else who asks me about Bert Prentice. You will never hear me say a bad word about that man, because it is because of Bert Prentice that I get to do this and live my dream. So, the other man that was responsible in a way is the Colorado Kid, aka the Joker, when he puts on makeup and looks much better, and that would be Mike Rapata. And Mike Rapata's cousin was the receptionist at my law firm, probably 25 years ago. And so I got to know Mike through her, and then I got to know Bert through him. And then eventually, after I'd given Bert a number of, I'd helped him out with a number of things, given him advice. He one day asked me, he said, I know that you're a big fan of wrestling. You ever have any dream in wrestling that I can help you out with? And I said, yes, I'd like to date Katie Lee Burchell. He said, yeah, probably not going to happen. Little did he know I would end up managing her 3 times so far, and she and I are actually now legit friends, which I think is amazing. But
did you ever wonder what could have been with the AWA had things gone differently? Had their fortunes gone differently? Had certain wrestlers not left, and perhaps more money would have been at the disposal of the Gagnes? Well, wonder no further. You can go to Brad Drake's YouTube channel and experience the 1987 Supermod for yourself, as Brad Drake starts off in May 1987, along with Greg Gagne, Baron Von Raschke, Vern Gagne himself, Nick Bockwinkel, Larry Zbyszko, Kurt Hennig, and a slew of others, as he plays and saves the AWA.
But he said, well, let's see what else you could do. I said, well, I'm way too old to be a wrestler. He said, you know what? I think you'd be a good heel manager. I think people would hate you. I said, thanks, I think. And so I managed, he said, do you want to manage a match at this Omen Arena show? I said, sure. So I did. And we, had a great match planned, and then a shoot fight broke out in the middle of the match, and it did not quite go as expected. But I remember one of the participants saying, welcome to the wrestling business. And so when I was done, I loved being on the other side of the curtain, and I thought it was great experience. I thought that was it. And I was content. And a couple days later, Bert called me up and said, did you have fun? I said, I had a blast. He said, good, because you got to come back. I said, what do you mean I got to come back? I mean, I'm happy to come back, but what do you mean I got to come back? And he said, well, I started getting phone calls from people telling me you were the most entertaining part of the show. I said, no, you didn't. He said, yes, I did. And I actually found out later who it was. And they were a few of the guys that started my fan club, the Legion of Lucky. And they just, they enjoyed seeing an old school manager who gave them someone to yell at, and got involved and added a little bit of a different dimension than had been seen there, because there hadn't been a manager for a while. And I'm pretty active, and as you can probably tell already, I'm not exactly shy, so I don't mind getting on the mic. And boom, 7 years later, I've got a ridiculous list of who's who of who I've worked with, and it still blows me away to the point where my friends tell me if me from 10 years ago could know what I've done, I would just laugh. And it is truly amazing.
Yeah. Let's talk about your name. How did you come up with this name? I've got to know.
Well, all right. So let me ask you this: what is this podcast rated?
Go ahead. Yeah, it's not for kids, so go ahead.
All right. Good. All right. So this was not my original name. As people who have followed me for a long time, and my original Legion of Lucky know, originally it was Lucky Pierre. All right. Now, basically, Bert told me before that first show, come up with a name. I said, all right. So I was watching the old 1966 Batman show with my son. And this was the episode where Eartha Kitt, playing Catwoman, who was perfect, and the Joker got caught and they went on trial. That's the only time in the history of Gotham City anybody ever went on trial, because they're always out with a new gang like the next week. But this time they went on trial. And their lawyer never asked a question, never made a statement, never questioned a witness, but he won every single case because he bribed every jury. And his name was Lucky Pierre. Now, I was going to manage Mike Rapata as the Joker. And this other guy who would paint a little green mask on his face, and he was going to be the Riddler. So since I was the lawyer for the Joker and the Riddler, as I was announced, saying being accompanied to their ring by their attorney, so I said, all right, since I'm the Joker's lawyer, I'll be Lucky Pierre. So I had no idea that it meant anything other than the Joker's lawyer. So I'm like, perfect. And so, we go as Lucky Pierre. And then, a year into this thing, I'm Lucky Pierre. I've now sold out of 2 batches of Lucky Pierre t-shirts. And, I'm thinking, well, this is great. And then we get on TV. And one of my law firm partners said, all right, I've let this go long enough. You cannot go on TV as Lucky Pierre. I said, well, why not? He said, do you have any idea what that means? I said, yeah, it was the Joker's lawyer on Batman. He said, no. I said, yes, it was. He was played by Pierre Salinger, who was press secretary to the White House. He absolutely said, okay, well, that's fine. That may be true. It is true. That's not all it means. I said, okay, what else does it mean? And he said, have you ever heard of Urban Dictionary? I said, uh-oh. Because even though I did not know what it meant, I certainly knew that if it was an Urban Dictionary, it was not good.
Yeah.
So I looked it up in Urban Dictionary and I said, oh, hell no. I said, number one, I did not know that. Number two, pretty good with the fact that I did not know that. And number three, and more important to me right now, how in the blue hell did you know that? And so a Lucky Pierre is the man that tests the theory it is better to give than to receive, because he is giving and receiving at the same time.
Okay.
And so I said, oh, no. And I called Bert and I said, Bert, I cannot go on TV as Lucky Pierre. He said, well, why not? I said, because somebody will Google me and they will come up with gay porn. I said, no. Yeah. And now I'm thinking Bert probably knew this and thought it was funny the whole time. So, I mean, like I said, I personally don't care, but, that's not what. Yeah. So we changed it to Lucky P Larson. The idea was originally Bert wanted to do an alliteration of Lucky L Larson and Triple L. And I'm like, yeah, but we've already got all the don't blame me. I voted for Lucky P. Lucky P's got a posse, all these Lucky P this, Lucky P that for Lucky Pierre. So we just made it Lucky P Larson. And for the last 5 years plus, it's been Lucky P Larson Esquire.
Okay. All right. Hey, well, there you go. That's an interesting story because I wouldn't have known that either.
Like I said, I just didn't want little kids looking it up and finding anything like that, one way or the other.
So you do have a little heart because, as a heel manager.
Very, very little.
So let me ask you this. When you got into the business, did they, after a little bit of time, say, hey, getting involved, you might want to get a little training so you could take a bump, that kind of stuff. Did you ever do anything like that or no?
I've gotten some training. I've taken a lot of bumps. I mean, I've been beaten up more times by Jerry Lawler than I can count. Coco Beware, Doug Gilbert, Tommy Rich. I've been hit with Jim Cornette's tennis racket, Jimmy Hart's megaphone. I've been wormed by the boogeyman. I've been speared by the juggernaut, put out with a sleeper hold. I've been stunned, and I've been, just you name it, I've had it done to me. I've been thrown into a cage, hit with a frying pan and a golf club. So you can't train to be hit in the head with a frying pan.
No, you can't. No, you cannot. All right, well, let me ask you this. You've been managing, you said, for about 7 years, 8 years?
Roughly, yeah.
Out of that time, and you've been around, I've done a little research, you've been to Tennessee, going to all these different places.
Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Illinois, Missouri, Mississippi, North Carolina.
Out of all that, and the people you've been either managing or have been around, who is probably one of the most, other than the people you've mentioned earlier, influential as far as guiding you in your career?
Well, that's easy. That's always going to be Lanny Poffo. Like I said earlier, Lanny Poffo was one of my closest friends in the world. I helped him write his speech for Randy when he got into the Hall of Fame. I was his guest at the Hall of Fame. I was his guest at the after party at WrestleMania following, where I literally was in the banquet room with all the WWE stars, which was pretty amazing. So he always kind of watched over my career and was telling me, giving me advice and what I was doing well, what he thought I could work on. So I will always credit him. He also decked me one time too, the day before he joined me, and turned on everybody. So that was always fun. I'm also fairly close friends with Missy Hyatt, who gives me ideas and thoughts every now and then. I'm on my 7th briefcase, and this is one that she actually picked out for me. So shout out to Miss.
All right, well, you might have to use it this weekend.
I know she's going to be there. I'm actually going to see her Friday. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk. We mentioned before my background here. You don't really care for the man that's got his arms crossed.
No.
The Hulkster, and let's hear that story behind that.
Well, growing up, I always hated Hulk Hogan, and I've met him, but was not the greatest moment of my life. I give him credit for what he did for the business, but kind of, like in a way, like I look at John Cena. I can respect John Cena for what he does for, the veteran kids and Make-A-Wish, but John Cena, the wrestler, I was never one of the big fans. Hulk Hogan, obviously he's got his own issues, which, I don't want to touch, but as far as a wrestler, I was never a fan of his. And the reason I was never a fan of his is because I was such a huge fan of the one who, in my opinion, is the greatest professional wrestler of all time. Not necessarily the greatest in-ring technician of all time. I don't think anyone confuse him with Bret Hart or Kurt Angle or He Who Shall Not Be Named. But when you are the most hated wrestler of the year 2 years in a row, and then you become the most popular wrestler of the year you turn. So you win the PWI award, most hated, most popular 3 years in a row. That shows the command you have over an audience. And that, of course, is the late, great Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
So
you've had interactions with Roddy, from what I talked about.
Yeah, I've met him a number of times, but clearly the most significant to me was, and I have this on video, so I have rewatched it and relived it. Around WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, they were keeping fans out of the WWE hotel, but because I was meeting Lanny for dinner, he came and got me and a friend of mine from Amsterdam, and we managed to get in through security, and we went into a restaurant, and the only people in restaurant in the hotel were Roddy Piper, his son Colt, and Sergeant Slaughter. So Lanny introduced me to Roddy Piper, and I sat there for about 5 minutes drooling on the man, telling him how much I loved it. And it was very very meaningful, and he could tell that it came from a true place of emotion and fandom and honesty.
Hey everyone, this is Brian Ferguson. Fans of the AWA, you are in for a real treat. My friend Joyce Poston has just released her book titled My Ringside Seat to the AWA. Joyce writes about her personal experiences with wrestlers such as Nick Bockwinkel, Lord Alfred Hayes, Baron Von Raschke, and others. Joyce also has published many photos from her collection that you will not see anywhere else. Order today by email at joyce.poston@gmail.com. Payment is through PayPal. The book is only $20 plus $6 shipping and handling. International orders, please email Joyce for shipping charge. Folks, run, don't walk to your keyboard, and order today. And enjoy the podcast. Yeah, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. All right, let's talk about your managerial career a little bit more. I've seen you, I haven't seen you ever in person, but I have seen you on TV, SICW up there in Illinois.
Where I currently manage the two-time SICW tag team champions, the LA Hustlers, the greatest tag team on God's green earth, where I have also managed the prior tag team champions, Kowalski and Mahler McDarby, and Kowalski as Central States champion. But yes, go on.
Let's ask you this. Are you getting any more talent? Do you have anybody in, you don't have to say names, just a yes or no, I guess would suffice. Talent in mind up there that you would like to manage, help out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Something of that nature. Yeah.
Sure. Lucky P Larson Esquire, I always say, is not just the greatest manager in professional wrestling, or at least independent professional wrestling, because I do tip my hat to Paul Heyman, although arguably he's not a manager, he's a spokesman or a special advisor or a wise man.
Yeah. Right.
But I also like to think that in addition to being a pretty darn good color commentator, I'm also a pretty good judge of talent. So, I have led 35 challengers to championships so far. So
so you're kind of in the same league as I don't want to cause a rivalry. You and like Stephen E down here in
no, you're not the riot. Stephen E and I have a good working relationship.
Okay.
I respect the man. As I've explained on television as the color commentator, I don't have to agree with everything that he does. In fact, I can't say that on a personal level I agree with putting, the Saudi Arabian and Syrian flags over American wrestlers, but I recognize in this country that he has the freedom of speech to do so. And, I adhere to the old saying, I don't agree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to do it.
Yeah, I agree. We actually agree on that. I want to talk, you said something earlier that kind of caught my attention, and that was about Paul Heyman. Now, I don't know if you've seen it on social media where he said somebody said something about Bobby Heenan. It was on the Stephen E show. And Bobby Heenan's dead, doesn't matter. I'm sure it was a work. I'm not sure, but Heyman, to me, like you said, he's just a spokesman. Do you think that is a lost art at that?
Without question.
What level? And why do you think that is? Why do you think that they don't have managers like yourself more involved in those matches other than standing outside the ring, holding the championship belt or making faces, of concern or whatever, and actually getting involved?
I've been accused over the last 6 years of hitting many, many people with my briefcase, of choking people with my tie or a chain or, whatever else, none of which I've ever done, but it's all camera tricks. But, the bottom line is that when I grew up, absolutely everybody had a manager, whether it was Mr. Fuji, Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, Freddie Blassie, Slick, Johnny Valiant, Oliver Humperdinck, Jay Dillon, Paul Ellering, Lou Albano. Percy Pringle, Gary Hart, Skandar Akbar, Adnan LKC, everybody had a manager. Now, virtually nobody has a manager. Mm-hmm. So, and I guess it's partly because they put so much emphasis on the talent being able to talk that, you don't really need a manager to talk for a lot of these people. Now, quite frankly, a lot of people in some of the areas I've worked with can't form a coherent sentence. And so if I want to get their point across, they need someone like me to do it.
Yeah.
No, and, of course, I'm also there for strategy sessions, words of encouragement at ringside. And, if whoever my guy happens to be wrestling at the time trips head first into my briefcase, that's on them.
Yeah. I will say, 25 years ago, when he was Paul E. Dangerously, he was great. He did get involved, and maybe that's part of he doesn't want to get involved now because he's older. I'm not sure, but I agree with you that it's a lost art, and guys like yourself and Stephen E. down here in Mid-States, that's what I enjoy a lot more when I'm at these shows now, is I see guys like yourself and these guys get involved. You might get hit a little bit, even though, you're not doing anything per se, right?
Never.
Never.
I am like Bill Belichick. I've never cheated a day in my life.
So, but going around all these places, and doing these, like you're going to the gathering, you said, how does that affect with your family and your other things you do? How do you make the time, I guess? Because I know you're a busy guy, like most people in life, and you gotta cut the time, but it's gotta you gotta cut something. So, talk to us about that a little bit. Hello, everyone. This is Brian Ferguson, the host of Bumps and Thumps, the talk of wrestling. I want to tell you about a new podcast out called Falls Count Anywhere. It is a classic pro wrestling podcast that brings you the legends of wrestling with true wrestling fans Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. They bring on guests that are legends in this business, as well as wrestlers of today, promoters, referees, you name it. They have them on there, folks. And I encourage you to listen to them. If you're on YouTube, watch them. They drop every Saturday. They have their podcast. They drop it in the afternoon. So look forward to that podcast coming out. Falls Count Anywhere podcast with Chris DiCarlo and Charlie Turner. Folks, you will not be disappointed. I guarantee it. And enjoy the podcast.
Yeah, because I'm very passionate about this, and it's something I've, enjoyed for years. You do what you want to do. You find time for what you want to do. And in all fairness, I also get a lot of legal work out of it because I am a real lawyer. I graduated in 1993, Vanderbilt Law School, and I've represented many, many, many talents, not just local talents. When Daphne sued TNA, I was one of her lawyers.
Okay.
Close friends with her. Represent several other people who, one of whom is a major star, one of whom has performed at WrestleMania. I'm their lawyer. So, I was Brian Christopher's lawyer.
Okay.
And friend. So I get a lot of legal work as well. Yeah. So that's another reason.
Let me ask you this. Outside of the ring, when you're at your law firm or doing work and you get a client, do they ever, you look really familiar?
Me several times. Yeah. People yell in court, look at that, Lucky's a real lawyer. And one time I was in Jack's and I actually was leaving the courthouse and one of the security guards came up to me and said, hey, wait a minute. And I'm thinking, what did I do? Why is the security guard coming after me? He says, where are you from? I said, I'm from Boston. And he said, "You sure you're not from around here?" I said, "Well, I live in Tennessee now, but I'm from Boston." Because I could have sworn you looked familiar. And he thought for me, says, "You have anything to do with wrestling?" I said, "Yes." "You're the guy with the briefcase, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." So I have, but by the same token, and this is a riot. My friend from Amsterdam came here as we were going to the Fan Fest in St. Louis, and we went to Grace because he wanted to see. So I went with him, and he and I were talking, and we were just cracking jokes, saying, I said, "Who is this Elvis guy? I mean, is he the honky tonk man impersonator? Where are the Intercontinental belts? Well, I don't get this." And some woman behind me, had to be 70 years old, not a lot of teeth, heard me and said, "You guys talking about wrestling?" And I said, "We are." And she said, she started talking to something, and I said, "Yeah, well, there's going to be," she said where she was from, and I said, "Oh, we got a big show coming up there." And I pulled up the flyer on my phone and showed it to her, and she pointed to me on the flyer and had no idea it was me, and said, "I hate him. I hate that guy." I said, "Oh, the guy with the briefcase? Yeah, if I ever saw him, I'd kick his ass." And I said, "Really?" And I'm just laughing. My friend is laughing, and I'm like, "Yeah, he sucks."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right. Let me ask you that promotion wise, you've been quite a few.
USA Championship Wrestling, Universal Championship Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Alliance, Tennessee All Pro, Battle on the Border, Revolutionary Wrestling Entertainment, Rocking Wrestling Federation, Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling, Mid-South Wrestling, TIWF, a couple others, but those are
let me,
top of my head.
Okay, let me ask you this.
South Championship Wrestling.
Which of those is probably one of the ones that you enjoy working the most?
Well, right now it's SICW.
Right.
SICW is, and I enjoy all the places I work. There's something unique about all of them. Primarily, I work at PWA on Fridays, TCW, Tennessee Championship Wrestling, on Saturdays. So, I enjoy both of those tremendous. But SICW is giving me the opportunity to be back on television, to do color commentary again, which I thoroughly enjoy. I enjoy doing color commentary, and Drew Ebenhouse and I have very good chemistry together.
Yeah, and you do.
And I've had a lot of people literally tell me that sometimes when the matches are not exactly 5-star catch can classics, and you might have an idea of who's going to win, that the entertaining part of the match is the back and forth between me and Drew. So
yeah.
Plus, I've also gotten the opportunity there. I was hit by Cowboy Bob Orton's cast. I've worked with him, Atlas, and I even got to live a little dream. And I pulled out a little action figure of Roddy Piper and screamed at Bob Orton in the middle of the ring, telling him how I've never forgiven him for turning on my hero. And then he proceeded to.
Yeah. No, I've watched the shows when you're on SICW, and I got to tell you, you guys, I'll say this, it's very interesting. You're back and forth. Color. It's kind of like in the 80s when it was Monsoon and Heenan, going back and forth.
Yeah. And if I will take any comparison to Bobby Heenan on commentary or Paul Heyman, Mike, as a huge, tremendous compliment.
Yeah, I love it. And also, the promoter there, Herb Simmons, absolutely great guy.
I give Herb a hard time on air, but
yeah, you do.
I really feel it. But I respect Herb Simmons, just like I did Bert. They are very old school promoters, and I've been a fan longer than a lot of the people I work with have been alive. So, and so I can appreciate that, and I can respect that.
Yeah, no, he's great. I was at the thing in St. Louis, the Bruiser Brody Memorial. I just couldn't stay for the evening, the matches and stuff. I had to take off, but yeah, it was great. That Bruiser Brody Memorial and the Fan Fest there with all the stars. That's probably for the cost, the best one I've been to. You know, I've been to some other ones that cost you like a lot of money to get.
Go to WrestleCon.
I have. I went there last year in Dallas, and it cost me a fortune, but
I've been to 10 of them.
Yeah, I just can't do it after that one. I was like, my God, I spent a lot of money.
Well, I will say this, that I spend less and less each year because of two reasons. One, I've met most people, and two, the more I get into it, the more people know me, and you know, I can hang out and talk to them and chat with them, and they're charging me anyway because they know me and I'm friends with them.
Yeah, it was quite a bit. So I mean, when Herb did his thing last May, and it was, I don't know, it was like $40 or something to get in there, and you get to see all those guys, and it wasn't very expensive to have a picture and autograph with them.
And we generally try to bring in somebody. I mean, we've had, you know, like I said, we had Tony Atlas and Cowboy Bob Orton at our next big show on August 11th, I believe, or August 12th. Saturday, August 12th will be Tito Santana.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, he does a great job, and he knows a lot of people. So that really, I know that helps a lot. So, Lucky, one more question for you, and then we can let you go so you can get back to your legal work and other managerial duties with your gathering coming up. What is next for you in the next? You talked about the gathering. You talked about SICW coming up. So give me some more
going on, and you can easily find it all on my Facebook page, Lucky P Larson, Enter to the Stars. And this weekend, every Thursday right now, I'm at Pro Wrestling Mid-South in Jackson, Tennessee. Generally on Fridays, I'm at Pro Wrestling Alliance, which is usually in Gladeville, Tennessee, outside of Lebanon. Saturday, I am generally at TCW, Tennessee Championship Wrestling, which is in Dixon or Selmer. We're various places. This Friday, I'm going to be in Johnson City managing Bam Bam Bundy against Johnny Fairplay from Survivor.
Yes, saw that. That should be interesting.
Yes, it should be. And then Saturday, I'll be managing at the Gathering for the 4th time. And then next week, again, Thursday should be in Jackson. Friday, I'll be at Bolivar for the Beatdown in B-Town, where Santino Marella and Jimmy Hart will be there. Yep. And I'll be managing MJ Davis as we go after the Southern Heavyweight Champion, Matt Boyce. And then the following night, I'll be managing the Stone Cold Larkin Danielle. And I will also be getting in the ring with MJ Davis and Kid Wrestling to face Kevin Zion and his partner. And quite frankly, that should be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like you got a lot on your plate. So
always do.
Yeah.
Of course, the next day is the TV taping in St. Louis, and I'll be back there for that. And the LA Hustlers will be defending their tag team titles on August 12th as well. So yeah, Lucky P Larson is always busy. There's always something going on in the world of Lucky P Larson Esquire.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, Lucky P Larson Esquire, manager of Stars. Thank you, sir, for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And you know, you can check out pictures on my videos on my Facebook page of me managing Carlito, Scott Steiner, Rhino, James Ellsworth, Tommy Rich, Doug Gilbert, the Boogeyman before he turned on me and wormed me, all my local stars here. So yeah, I've been put through it.
We will have that description down there in the description of for your Facebook page and any other.
And Katie Lee. Did I mention I've managed Katie Lee a few times?
A few times. That's okay though.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. That's good. So Lucky P Larson Esquire, manager of champions, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Folks, if you're watching, thank you. If you're listening, thank you. And if you haven't, please subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.